go ahead and get started. So again, I wanted to thank you all for joining us for this webinar. It's on SCIA Engineer, linking structural analysis and design into BIM. My name's David Hanley. I am the sales engineer for SCIA, and I'm going to be doing the webinar today, and we'll be diving into first an overview of SCIA Engineer to talk about analysis and design, and then we'll get into how that leads us into linking it into BIM. So let's go ahead and jump right in. So first off, I want to start by talking about Nemetschek Group, which SCIA is one of the 13 brands of the Nemetschek Group. And so this might be a new company to some of you, but you may recognize some of our sister companies within the Nemetschek Group, Bluebeam, Celibre, Vectorworks, and one of the newest acquisitions within the last 6 months was SDS2 Design Data. So under the umbrella of the Nemetschek Group, Nemetschek Group provides us with financial backing and support, and they only, the companies that are within our umbrella are all AEC companies. So today I want to start with talking about SCIA Engineer. So if you haven't heard of SCIA, it's a new breed of 3D finite element analysis, modeling, analysis, and design structural software. It's a scalable, integrated, multi-material platform, and I'm going to show you some, some broad concepts about what SCIA can do. So first off, who uses SCIA? And so you can see on this slide that we have quite a few companies across the globe that are using SCIA Engineer for their workflows. We're gaining a larger and larger presence in the United States, but again, SCIA is global in nature, and we have our roots in Belgium. So the companies that are using SCIA, what are they using it for? So they're using SCIA in a variety of different industries. Okay, so you can use SCIA Engineer in office and residential complexes, industrial, energy related industries, infrastructures, bridges, tunnels, environmental, tanks and pools, and specialty concrete structures. So SCIA, I think a main key to keep in mind is that it's a very flexible platform. So there's 4 key benefits that I'd like to leave you all with today in regards to SCIA. Okay, so fast and efficient modeling. We also offer advanced analysis and multi-material design. We offer automatic and coordinated documentation, and interoperability and collaboration. And so I'm going to briefly discuss these 4 key benefits and then get into the BIM interoperability. So let's start with fast and efficient modeling. And this is at heart what enables SCIA to participate in the BIM interoperability and exchanges. And so just like, let's take Revit for example, SCIA can handle the structural model and also the analysis model, that's the root of, being able to perform, 3D finite element analysis. And so this is the essence of what allows us to participate in some of those, more interesting workflows. So I'm going to show you SCIA in action in regards to the ease of 3D modeling. And so we're just going to design a simple steel structure, a canopy structure, and just jump right into the SCIA interface. So we've got some grid lines that we've established. It's very Revit-like in how we model in a 3D work environment. So we're just going to choose some steel columns and some beams. SCIA can handle, curved 1D members We have multi-copy features. We can also jump right in and do 2D members, shells. SCIA can handle curved 2D members as well. We've got some snap points so we can create complex geometries. And again, we can multi-copy those just like you would in Revit. And then to perform an analysis, what we can do is we can select the bases of the columns and add supports. And then we are ready to run our analysis. And so what we can do then is we can apply some loads. SCIA has the flexibility on how we can apply different loads, especially surface loads. So we can apply a surface force, choose the 2D members that we want to apply these loads, and then we can just run our analysis very, very quickly and get our results. So then what we can do is we can look at our results graphically, and we can first begin to look at internal forces on a beam, for example. So we're looking at those curved beams that we created. And then we can also look at graphically the 3D displacements of the structure overall. And we can also take it a step further and we can animate the the structure so you can see how it behaves. So also in line with fast and efficient modeling with SCIA, we have standard shape libraries that come preloaded with SCIA Engineer. So we also have the ability though to create custom geometry sections. And what SCIA can do, you can create them from scratch within SCIA. You can import them from maybe a 2D shapefile from AutoCAD, and then SCIA will determine the properties of that section, and then you can add it to your library of shapes and then use it in your modeling and analysis. So it allows us some pretty interesting flexibilities, for specialty components. So in terms of fast and efficient modeling, once we've created, our model, what we can do is we can then load it. And I showed you really briefly on that last, video on the steel canopy structure. But we also have automatic, load generators for wind and seismic, and these are for, to ASCE 7. We also have what we call a freeload capability, which allows us to apply, surface loads and project them onto, different curved 2D shapes. So we can do line loads, we can do point loads, we can do varying line loads. So we just have a lot of flexibility, not only in the way that we model, but also how we can apply these loads. So in this video, I just wanted to show you an example of the flexibility and also, the sophistication of our loading. So here we have a 2D plate structure that was created in Rhino or Grasshopper, and it was imported into SCIA to create the 2D member. And now we're going to use a freeload and apply it to this more complicated surface. So what we're going to do is create a projection plane using that freeload, set the actual parameters for the load, and then project it onto that surface. And so this allows us to do some pretty interesting loading in terms of wind or seismicity and some specialty applications. So the next key benefit I want to jump into is advanced analysis and multi-material design. So for SCIA, it is a very robust and sophisticated analysis package. It is also scalable. So this allows us to provide a more custom solution for our clients. So here you can see a list of some of our analysis capabilities, and we can tailor these for our clients as needed. So some of the more common ones are the plastic analysis, the P-delta, the ability to do the advanced nonlinear supports, bearing pressures. We've done webinars on seismicity and how we can apply those loads to a structure, and the soil structure interaction. So a lot of capability in terms of what SCIA can do. So here is just an example showing the graphical capabilities of SCIA in terms of displacements on different shape members. So you can just see the capabilities of what we can display graphically. So we can also do the same thing more in a this is an actual project, a model that was created in SCIA and loaded. So this is showing the actual 3D stress distributions on a display structure. So graphically, SCIA is very capable. So beyond analysis, what we provide in terms of design is multi-material. And so SCIA is integrated, so you can model and then perform your analysis in a multitude of different materials and jump into your design. So the main ones that we support are the steel, concrete, and cold form. So, and we also, I mentioned the loading capabilities that we have for wind and seismic per IBC and also ASCE 7. We also support, obviously with our roots being in Europe and Belgium, we offer Eurocode support as well for those of you doing projects abroad. So also in speaking, multi-material design, one of the big capabilities that comes up more and more is being able to handle steel and composite steel design to AISC 360. So SCIA is fully capable to do that. We can also do 1D and 2D member in any geometry. I mentioned that curved 1D and 2D members. We also have a functionality to be able to design steel bar joists using the SJI virtual joist method, and we have worked closely with SJI to further enhance this capability within SCIA. We also provide a base plate and connection design calculation. SCIA is actually customizable through another program called Design Forms. And this AISC baseplate and HSS connection are available for free download from our website. And that's a standalone design form calculation, but beyond that, you have the ability to purchase design forms, create your own calculations, and then link them back into SCIA Engineer, thereby customizing it. Another functionality that we offer is parametric optimization. And so beyond just being able to easily model in 3D, you can create parametrics and create models just by adjusting the parameters. It just allows you to speed up your workflows. So also speaking in line of multi-material design, we can do concrete design. So we can also, again, do 1D and 2D design in any geometry. So we can design reinforced concrete buildings to ACI 318, including seismic. We have other applications to ASCE 7. We can perform pushover analysis. In this, I want to show you another brief example of SCIA in action, and this more speaks to our concrete design flow, but it also shows you the flexibility of our 2D modeling. Okay, so this was a structure. Let's assume it's a swimming pool, if you will, holding a liquid. So what we've done is we've created it using concrete 2D members, and then we've already loaded it. So what we can do is very quickly create the auto meshing for the structure, and then we can jump right in and perform the analysis. So as we begin to look at results, we can first look at the 3D displacements from the fluid load acting internally. We can also look at the bearing pressures from that fluid load. And then what we can do is we can jump into our concrete design functionality, and we can dial in, and we can begin to look at a specific section that we want to design. So SCIA calculates the area of reinforcement required to ACI 318, and then what we can do is we can choose to put in our own horizontal and vertical bars as needed. So if we added number 5s at 6, we can choose the section that we want to apply this to very quickly, remesh, perform the design, and here we can actually choose to show the bars graphically in the orientation in the model. So then once we've got the design, we can go and look at the engineering report if we wanted to see the results tabular in our report versus just graphically as what I showed you in the previous model. So we can look at our materials, we can look at our displacements. So you have a lot of flexibility in what you can include in your report. And then what we can do is we can put in both the design, the required design, concrete design for that member, that 2D member that we designed, and then we can also put in the user reinforcement that we specified. So another key benefit of SCIA Engineer is automatic and coordinated documentation. So I briefly showed you some output in the SCIA report capabilities, but it is actually a separate executable file. And so if you're running a 2-monitor setup, you can actually have your report generator running on another screen and have SCIA on the other, and they're dynamically linked. And this is unique because any model changes and updates and results that happens in your SCIA model, it's dynamically linked to the report, and you can refresh those updates automatically. So here's an example showing the engineering report, what that executable, what that program actually looks like. There's a lot of flexibility on what we can do with our reporting. So if calculations are important in your output, SCIA is very professional and elegant in what we can produce. In Europe, this is key because your output reflects directly on your professionalism and your capabilities as an engineer. So we're starting to see this more and more in the US, and also because of the ease of how we can create these reports. Engineers are spending a tremendous amount of time creating reports using a multitude of different programs. They're using Word, they're using Bluebeam, they're using a PDF writer. And what SCIA helps do is streamline that report creation, thereby saving you time. And since it's dynamically linked, you know with confidence when a model changes that it's reflected in your report. And we've also done an entire webinar, a 1-hour webinar just on the reporting capabilities. So the last benefit that I want to jump into is that the interoperability and collaboration, and now we are getting into the heart of that, linking your analysis and design into BIM. Okay, so what does that mean? So BIM interoperability, for SCIA means that we are able to participate in a lot of different exchanges with a lot of different programs. So OpenBIM is a concept that uses the IFC 2x3 file type to allow compatibility with over 150 different BIM packages. And so not only analysis and design software, but also in other avenues of AEC. And so this is a very flexible file exchange, that offers some unique, interoperability, for SCIA users. We also are starting to see more participation in Rhino 3D and Grasshopper. These are advanced architectural, programs, and SCIA is interoperable with these, so we can, import these complex surfaces and structures, and then, begin to model them in SCIA and apply loads and analyze them. So the big one, I think, in the U.S. market, and this is, probably one of the most popular, is the Autodesk Revit link. So SCIA offers a direct, it's a bi-directional link, so it allows model management and results, and we do support up to Revit 2017, and that's a big one that we've been talking with a lot of our clients and potential clients. We also support interoperability with techless structures, import and export of the analysis model, and then just some standard formats in terms of AutoCAD. If you've got, you can directly import and export AutoCAD, DXF, DWGs straight into and out of SCIA. So in terms of BIM interoperability, and now we're going to look directly at the SCIA Revit interoperability. And so I just wanted to show you an example of how SCIA can perform this exchange. And so if we start with the Revit model with a lot of different 2D and 1D members, at essence, in order to perform the exchange with Revit, we're going to be looking at the analysis model that sits within Revit. And so in this example, we've got a variety of different structures and shapes, and we're going to create what's called an R2S file. That's the proprietary file that SCIA uses with Revit to exchange the data. So we've got some settings that we can choose, some mapping tables, and some of these are preloaded, but you can also create your own families. So here's showing the mapping tables. And then what you can do is begin to perform the exchange. So you choose where you want to save that R2S file. So the bidirectional link is going to export. You'll get a summary. Once the R2S file is created, we can then jump straight into SCIA Engineer. We can choose to import that R2S file that we had just created. Make sure that our codes match. In this particular case, we're using the IBC. And now you can see that those shapes came directly into SCIA Engineer. All the 2D members, all the 1D members, the openings, the different geometric properties. And then what we can do is, to show you the reverse, we can take the exchange the other way. So we can make changes within SCIA Engineer. We can add some openings We can move some nodes. And as we're making these changes, we can then save those changes back to the R2S file, and then we can take them back to Revit. So here we're multi-copying a steel truss structure. So we just go the other way. We export back to that R2S file. So we can then jump back into Revit. We can review and import. We choose our R2S file. And then the bidirectional link will show us highlighted the members that were originally there, and then also now it will show us any change and highlight those changes. So we have some flexibility in if we want to accept the changes and which ones, and then we can perform the import. And SCIA is now mapping all these changes back into Revit. So once it's done, it shows us a summary of what was imported. And now in Revit, you can see that the changes were picked up. So we've got the opening that we made, the copy of the truss structure, and the node change that we did just briefly. So the key again with this interoperability is the analysis model that sits in Revit. That's the key. So we also offer another interoperability workflow that I mentioned, and that was that IFC workflow. So real quickly, I want to show you, what that workflow looks like and what we can do with that flexibility. So if we were to take a structure that was created, we're in SCIA Engineer, and this has not only analysis model data, but this particular model also has MEP layers. Non-analysis model data has been imported into SCIA Engineer, and that is one of the I think one of the powerful aspects of SCIA is that we can import this other model data and put it on a non-analysis layer and be able to incorporate it into our design. So we can look at the HVAC, we can look at penetrations, we can look at if there's any conflicts in our modeling and design, all within SCIA Engineer. We can use the clipping plane here and look at the atrium. So there's even a lot of flexibility on how SCIA can render and view, the different model data that you want to bring into SCIA. And it allows the structural engineer a lot of flexibility, to be able to bring in multidisciplinary models and help with coordination. So I've talked about the 4 key benefits that I wanted to leave you all with. Number 1, fast and efficient modeling. Number 2, the advanced analysis, multi-material design, automatic and coordinated documentation, and then of course the interoperability and collaboration. So as I begin to close here, I wanted to mention that SCIA on a global basis, every 2 years we offer we host a user contest, and we have just launched the submissions for the user contest for 2017. And so what this allows is SCIA users across the globe to present and submit their keystone projects that they've worked on over the last 2 years for submission into our contest. And so what we do is we recognize winners in 4 different categories, and we actually, there's awards, but we also recognize our winners. We do a hardbound book that lists all the 4 categories, which are, buildings, industrial structures, specialty structures. And one of our winners within the last 2 years was one of our current clients, which is HGA, and this was a church project that they had submitted using SCIA Engineer. And this is an example of, I think, the complexity that you can use SCIA for. And the video that I showed you earlier, showing the projection of the surface on the 2D member, that was taken from this project, and that was actually how they used SCIA to analyze the wind load. So with that, I'd like to close, and I'd like to thank you all for joining us for this webinar. If you would like additional information on SCIA Engineer, our contact information will be sent there's going to be a follow-up email to the webinar. We would appreciate your comments and feedback. I hope it's been educational, and if there's any questions, I'm happy to address some of those with the time that we have remaining. So one question that we do get is how is SCIA sold, and how much does SCIA cost? And those questions are a little bit dynamic because we are scalable, and we are different than I think what a lot of you are used to in terms of the American softwares that you guys have purchased over the years. And so we have a couple different editions of SCIA Engineer, and so what we do is we provide, beyond an overview presentation like this, what we provide is in-depth technical presentations, which we're happy to schedule, and we can help identify which modules in SCIA that are most applicable and help essentially get our clients the functionality that they need at the lowest cost that we can provide. I have a question about, can you try SCIA? And the answer is yes. We welcome you to, we offer free 30-day trials, and you can request those trials at our website. And just to let you know, for any request that comes in, I personally follow up with each one of them. And so we do not just provide a blanket trial. So if you do speak with me, what I try to do is, and part of that is because I need to determine which edition of SCIA that you need to try. And then another thing that we do, which I think is different than our competition, is that we actually provide support. We provide it on the front end in terms of we provide some training, but we also provide support during the trial. So you, in essence, get to try out what it's like to be a SCIA customer. So at this point, I'll go ahead and wrap up, and I wanted to thank you all again for joining. So if you need any additional information, feel free to reach out, and we appreciate your time. Thank you.